God, it's the BC3 Amigos. We're back again. Can you believe it, guys? Awesome. It is the month of February, and a belated happy Valentine's to all of our listeners, as well as belated President's Day and whatever else we want to throw into the mix here. So, you know us, we're really into, the days off and that sending those Hallmark cards to everybody. So we forgot to email everybody a Hallmark card. But it's funny, we got together towards the end of January, and we, the three amigos sat here and we said, who should we invite? What's going on in our community that's hot, and what's happening out there in terms of our community, and who do we invite as one of our guests? And we said every other month we'll invite a guest, and we thought, what's been on our minds, and we've been all three of us been going back and forth, reporting. This AI reporting, this concept of reporting, Power BI, all these crazy things. And you know what? We reached out to one of our buddies who we always, break bread and have a lot of drinks with at the conferences. But we invited Anthony Bonaduce from COSMOS. And Anthony, introduce yourself to the crazy three of us and our community, and tell us a little about yourself and what you're doing over there at COSMOS.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, obviously, I got to get the pleasantries out of the way. So thank you all for having me. It's an honor to be with not only the three amigos, but the three MVP amigos all on one call. There's a lot of, in all seriousness, obviously, I've known most of you for a very, very long time. Appreciate the contributions to the community and all the effort and things you guys have put into making it what it is. But honored to be here. My name's Anthony Bonaduce. For those of you who don't know me, I am the co-founder and acting CRO here at COSMOS Data Technologies. And just really excited to be here and join the episode. Obviously, follow what you guys have been doing, and excited to be on it and be a part of it.
This is great.
It's great to have an Irishman on the quell.
Yes, exactly. It's the last name gave it away, Rob.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
great name.
We should have done this in March then. Did we pick the wrong month, maybe?
I was born in March, so that would have made sense.
I'm telling you, it's like, Anthony, it's crazy. Rob, Kim, and I have been constantly looking at reporting, and that just the whole reporting in general is evolving so fast in Business Central right now. It's like, it's crazy, whether it be every couple of months or a full wave. You've seen changes, the Power BI changes, the Excel changes, the financial reporting changes, and they're still coming. There's more to come. So kind of give us your lay of the land. Like, where do you see COSMOS? Where do you see other reporting people? And kind of give us what your take is on all these changes, because we've got tons of questions, but it's like we've thrown basic ones out there. But kind of give us your take on all of this. And where do you see the world headed over the next few years?
Yeah, man. It depends how much time you guys have, but I'll try and keep it distinct as I can. But yeah, you're right. I've had the pleasure of working in the reporting and analytics space, dedicated around Microsoft ERP users for about, 15 years or something like that. And it's been fun to watch the journey and progression. Back in the GP days, you had Microsoft Bot Management Reporter, but you had some other stuff on the side. Then you had NAV, and that was kind of the Jet days. And then, BC came out, and obviously there wasn't really that, seamless laminated third-party reporting and analytics tool, which is where we saw that green space and opportunity there. But yeah, I think it's great what Microsoft's doing. They're making a lot of enhancements and improvements. And I think for certain people, it's probably sufficient, or it's maybe an exciting thing because it's getting better. But I think one of the things, and I hate to steal my directions presentation analogy, but you just led me right into it, so I got to do it. I'll debut what I was going to talk about with the partners. I think at the end of the day, though, Microsoft will continue to make enhancements and improvements, but also, the team has been very clear that, it may not end up where everyone wants at the end of the day. It's going to get better, and they're going to improve on it. But at the end of the day, a lot of folks have really robust needs around reporting and analytics. I think what they've done with Power BI is great. People can kind of pick that up a little bit with the pre-built stuff and try and use it a little. Obviously, there's some native capabilities, but I think it boils down to talking to customers and having these conversations literally every single day, and as well as with partners around what do people actually want. And what I hear from people more than anything consistently is like, we just want to take the easy road. And I think we all do that in life. We pick the easiest way to get from point A to point B. My directions analogy was going to be, asking people, how many people flew here, right? And I'm sure almost everyone's going to raise their hands. And how many people drove here? And maybe there's some, but probably not that many. How many people walked, right? And everyone's going to look at me like I'm crazy. Well, at the end of the day, all three of those methods are going to get you from point A to point B. But I think all of us logically are going to pick the easy route, which is probably hopping on a plane, cutting the travel time down. Yes, I don't own a plane, but it's probably not as expensive when you really boil it all down as it may seem, right? Like the cost of an airfare ticket, it's extra. You already own a car. You could just hop in there and go. You have two legs. You could just start walking. But when you think about, like, let's take driving, for example. You're going to have to stop multiple times depending on where you're coming from and get a hotel. You're going to have to stop for meals the whole way. You're depreciating your car. You have to get gas. You got to get snacks and drinks, all that stuff, right? So I think there's this mindset with people that, well, there's native tooling. I can use some of this in BC. I can use some of this in Power BI. I can use some of this over here, over there. And it will get me where I'm going. And it might seem cheap because I own a lot of it. But at the end of the day, you're going to spend more time and money and effort. What we can, do with a tool like Cosmos is we can give them that one-stop shop. Hop on the plane, buy a ticket, and it's going to get you to, from point A to point B faster. And I think that's ultimately, the messaging I was going to convey, obviously, the directions, but, that we see in the channels. People just want to go with the easier route, and they don't want a hodgepodge of solutions. Because when I talk to customers, so often it's, well, we've got 6 reports over here in Power BI, but Rob's the only one that can really build those. And, most of the team doesn't even really know they exist, but they do, and they should use them more. But then Steve built some stuff in BC directly, and Kim built some, financials. So those are there, but it's just kind of a little bit of a hodgepodge, right? And people often want that one-stop shop, uniform, easy feel. So it's a really long answer, but it could have been a lot longer. But does that help a little bit?
It does. I mean, what's fascinating is, the financial reports in BC. I'm sure you've seen them. Mm-hmm. Kind of like you said, Kim's built out the financial reports. Rob's gone in there and maybe he's built out some of his own Power BI, that he made some queries and made some of his own Power BI for service or, warehousing, whatever he made. And then you got the out of the box, the 75 going to 80, Power BI reports that are out of the box native to BC. But of course, not yet. You can't manipulate them yet. Maybe in a future release, it will allow you to play with them. But I guess the question is this: where do you see people basically just moving towards a Power BI state, or are they really going like, I want Excel, I want Power BI, I just want what I want, and I want to get there, and I need a tool to do it? Because right now, as you know, it's like throwing dice in the air, and whichever one you're going to catch, you're going to catch.
Yep.
But I mean, we're all over the place. We just named 3 things. There's Excel, there's Power BI, and there's base native BC. And what are you doing to kind of how do you explain it to people listening to us? So they're listening to all of us today, and we're sitting here saying, because this comes up all the time. All 3 of us are constantly in this constant conversation with our customers and with our friends. And we sit there and say, well, where do we go? Like, do I do all 3? Do I not do all 3? What is the right answer? I mean, if there is one.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And it's funny because like on every single demo we do, because I'm sure we'll talk about this at some point, but Power BI is integrated with Cosmos. And there's a really compelling use case for that. And I'll talk about it later, I'm sure. But one of the things I always explain when I get to the Power BI part, because there is so much misconception around it, is that Power BI and Excel should not be viewed as competitors. They're 2 different front ends that do 2 different things better and worse than each other. Power BI is so strong at visualization and dashboards, analytical views of your data, and you can get some basic grids and things like that. I don't see any customers doing their financial reports in Power BI. In fact, there was a CFO we worked with once that said, why not? Let's prove it out, right? And his joke or his quote at the end was, if I showed these to the board, I'd get fired. These are not financial statements, right? On the other hand, Excel is so much stronger at rows and columns, quick calculations. Its visualization looks like it's from 1980, right? It's not where you want to do your dashboards and your visualization of data. So I really believe it's not an either or. It's how do you want to present that data? And oftentimes, it's both. We want a summary type, visualization of the data in Power BI, but then we also want that nitty gritty detail in Excel. So I think there is this misconception. I talked to a partner, a very prominent partner in our space yesterday, and they said, I don't get why this is so confusing. I keep talking to other, our channel's very tight, but they said people are just forcing Power BI down their customers' throats because there's so much, momentum and marketing behind it. But at the end of the day, it's not typically, or I should say, not often what they're looking for, right? They get the results and they're a little underwhelmed. Like, well, this isn't exactly what I thought. And I always tell people, when you open Power BI desktop, the first thing you see is build visuals with your data. I mean, Microsoft's telling you right there, like, what that tool is ultimately designed for. And then, I could go on, but I think at the end of the day, like, Power BI, I've always said this, in the hands of a business user is not really an end-to-end solution. They need help somewhere, right? They need SQL, they need DAX, they need Power Query. That's not something that, Bob in finance knows, or Karen, right? I mean, they need help on that. And a lot of times they want to be untethered. They want to be able to just build what they need when they need it. So
very true.
It's very true. I mean, I'm sitting here and we're kind of, we're moving to wave 1 of 2025, and obviously we're going to get some new features out of it and a lot of more reporting out of everything. We're kind of, if you had to break out your Anthony crystal ball, it's St. Patrick's Day. It's a drunk crystal ball in your case, but we'll be polite. We're not going to tell anybody. So the BC3 Amigos, we're thinking of Cinco de Mayo half the time.
Yeah.
But where do you see, or how do you see how this is all going to play out? Because I mean, every time you're sitting in front of a customer or a prospect or anybody, and everybody wants to talk about the same thing. You see Microsoft, like you said, Microsoft's always going to enhance and make things better. But, other than us, a partner telling somebody, look, this is great. Like financial reports, you really need to use base BC or Excel. That's really the solution of choice. Or, Power BI is great for XYZ, but where do you see it going? I mean, because obviously if they keep making changes and changes and changes, and they keep adding this functionality, isn't Microsoft almost going to, what's the word I'm looking for, but almost like, I mean, at some point, are they going to get overwhelmed? I mean, almost like their marketing spiel, I'll call it that, where it's going to sound like the customer has to go this route no matter what, but they're not. It's not right for, like you said, financial reports or a quick little aging. Let's say maybe I want a simple aging in Excel or use the base report or something like that. I mean, there's got to be some, for you at least. I mean, where the future lies. And you are seeing the future. I mean, people who want data warehousing, people who want to use, all these other tools. But if all the eggs are going to be thrown into this basket of Power BI, are we really sending our customers down a primrose path? And they're going to get there, and then they're going to throw their hands up and scream and yell at you for saying, "Why'd you send me down this path?" I mean, like, how do you even address it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot obviously to unpack there, but I heard Kim chime in, right? Like, is it going to get to a point where everyone's happy with it? I don't think so. I mean, Microsoft is a giant company. They could totally prove me wrong, but I mean, look at the previous ERPs and where we were at. I do think BC is better, but I mean, GP had a tool they acquired, and Nav was lacking as well. And I think one thing to remember about, ERPs in general, they're not reporting tools. I mean, it's just you look across the board, there's a couple that are pretty strong, but for the most part, ERPs in general are not reporting tools. Now, at the same time, if you think about the pressure that Microsoft's been feeling to add a lot of this reporting capability, it's been partners coming to them saying, we need better reporting. We've got I won't even say the other ERP, you all know who I'm talking about, but they say, when we go head to head, they've got stronger reporting currently. And Microsoft said, I think it was at Directions EMEA this last year, we feel like we've closed that gap. And I think that's a telling thing. I think you'll continue to see them sprinkle in enhancements to those things. But I don't personally think that, when you look at a tool like Cosmos and what it provides and the focus being fully on reporting and analytics for business users, I think Microsoft's focus is rightfully so, probably on making it easy to sell Business Central. That's what I think they probably care about more than anything. And I can't blame them for that. And so I think, if the partners continue to squeak about, native stuff, they'll continue to add things. But I don't think that is their core focus. I think their core focus is the ERP system. And I've always said, like, if you don't have decent reporting, you can't sell the ERP. Because as we all know, the customer's first question is, great, now how do I get my data out? Like, it's got to be checked. The box has to be checked. But again, it's like understanding what the customer's actual expectations and wants are. And are they going to actually solve those? That's the part to me that's very much a gray area. And if we look at the past and how it's evolved, like, probably not. That would be my guess with my crystal ball, because we've seen it for decades.
So Anthony, with all the bells and whistles that Microsoft is putting into Power BI right now, how is that impacting your marketing right now, and what you're doing to kind of offset, the things that they're saying?
Yeah, that's another good question. So if you think about our Power BI integration with Cosmos, we leverage a data warehouse architecture behind the scenes, and we have one that's pre-built for Business Central. So 95% of what a customer wants is there on day one. The other 5% will tailor, or the partner will tailor to fit that customer specifically, their custom tables and fields, third-party integrations, things that they need to expose from a reporting perspective. But the reason we took that approach, it was actually requested by the partners. So Steve, you were probably, I think, in this session, but 2 or 3 years ago at Directions, I just said, show of hands, if we could work on one of these major features next, what would it be? And it was almost unanimous. They said, make the integration with Power BI from a data perspective easier. So the beauty of a data warehouse is it's relational data. The tables and fields are married and joined and linked and related. That's where all the hard part of Power BI comes in, because you take the default API, you modify it to expose additional tables and fields, you write your SQL, your DAX, your Power Query, you build out your schema. That's the stuff the business users can't do. But now with Cosmos, partners can say, well, if you use this, you're really just using Power BI as a front end. It's just visualization. You hook it up to the data warehouse. The data's all clean, organized, ready to go, and you do your drag and drop. And the other thing it provides that we hear all of the time is, and we always make this joke on our demos, right? So, well, Kim's over here building stuff with Power BI. Steve's over here building stuff with Excel. They get to the meeting and Kim says, yeah, we had a great month. It was 2.2 million in sales. And Steve goes, well, I showed 2 million. And then they stare at each other. And the reason is they're building their own data sets behind the scenes. And depending on where you pull from, how you set it up, what you filter on, you can end up with a lot of risk around errors and inconsistency. When you use a data warehouse, modern approach, like the data is already blessed. It's our one version of the truth. Whether we surface it into Excel or Power BI, we're going to get the same numbers. And then I think, things will continue to evolve. Rob and Steve, you both brought up kind of a point around this, but, yes, there's those pre-built Power BI reports. Steve, to your point, you can't really do anything with them. If you look at them and say, well, I need it different, you're kind of stuck. At the same time, on the other side of that, Rob, what I was going to say was with those Power BI reports, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but this was really important. There's also just lots of gotchas, like there always is with out-of-the-box stuff, potentially, right? Depending on how you build it and think about it. But, you might look at those Power BI reports and say, well, this is great. We've got multiple companies, so we'll just push those out and use our companies. Well, no, that's not how it works. You have to push them all out for each and every company. And so many of the customers we talk about have multiple companies. So, I mean, you're trading like ease of use for something that's sort of out of the box, like with a Cosmos, for example, for like a lot of development work and effort and things that just cost money. It's the same idea as like, the traveling analogy, right? Like you can jump on the plane, get from point A to point B and be there, or you can, take the long road and you may still end up in a similar spot. It's just, why wouldn't you want to get there fast? So,
That's a great point, Anthony, because that's one of the big reasons I don't use Power BI right now is because you've got to go out there and set it all up, and it's much easier to use your tools. So,
yeah. And I think that's just, that's the part that's, frustrating, because when we do these demos, like one of our favorite quotes, and we've joked about aggregating, and when I say favorite, like it kills me, but also it's validating, is why didn't I know about this sooner? Like we hear that all the time on demos, or at the end, we say, any thoughts, any questions? And it's kind of silence. And then, the CFO will go, where were you 2 years ago? And we're like, we existed. Why didn't I know about it? Like this would have saved us so much time and effort and, headaches. we're growing like a weed, so that message is getting out there more. But, it takes time, and we want to do it right. We didn't want to take on a ton of, capital and just, bombard the market and do it the wrong way. We wanted to grow organically and do it the right way. And, at this point we've got, 130, 40 partners globally. We're in Europe, we're here. I mean, it's starting to really blow up, but yeah, I think that customers just don't know what's out there. And that's why as an ISV, right, got to work through the partners and get the message out.
Do you feel, as we're here listening to you and as we're talking about all this, the person in the end, which is really the customer, right? The user who really has to do some of this. Do you feel that if they load a Cosmo and they actually have the perfect data warehouse, and now all they have to do is use a front end, which is, Power BI, it could be Excel for all we know, it could be any front end it wants to be. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that it's easy for the novice person to get what they want out of Power BI, or is it more, and you know this because you obviously interact with the partners and customers, do you see more people coming to you and just saying, listen, I need these 20 reports, just go make them for me and call me back when you're done? Because they don't learn anything.
Yeah. Yep. So really good question. And to me, there's sort of two answers here. And I again, from experience, right? Some customers just don't want to do the work. Some people are resistant to change. They're busy, they've got enough on their plate and they just don't want to do it. So they're going to pay their partner or us or someone to build those reports. But they like that the UI is clean, that everything's in one place. Because that's like one thing about Cosmos. You've got Power BI in the portal and you've got Excel in the portal. It's all in one. So they can have it all ready to go. Hey, it's been shared with you. Log into Cosmos. You've got Excel reports. You've got Power BI reports and dashboards. So there's that type of customer. And I always call it like the Goldilocks and the three bears. I want to do everything. I don't want to do anything. And the average customer is kind of in the middle. Like maybe you do some hard stuff. Maybe we do the easy stuff, whatever it is. So that's kind of like one answer. The other answer, though, is everything we do is built for business users. There's no coding in Cosmos. It doesn't exist. Even with the data warehouse, it is point click. Our tooling does all the stuff behind the scenes that would be coding in other solutions. Like I've had people say, well, why wouldn't we just use Fabric and why wouldn't we use Power BI? And it's like, do you know how to do any of that? And they're like, no, right? Even Power BI, I talked to she was a super nice lady at Summit. And she said, I came by your booth because you were recommended, but like my plan is to go back and start using Power BI. And I was like, very nicely, but I was like, so you know how to write like SQL and DAX and all that? And she just kind of glazed over. Like, what is that part? Like, they see the demos with the clicky, draggy, droppy, and they're like, I can do this. They don't know that there's a whole bunch of, implementation and effort on the technical side that has to go into it. And that's the thing that kills me more than anything. The marketing Kool-Aid is so, this looks easy, but it's not. The last thing I'll say is with our stuff, like it is truly as easy as you can make it. I mean, our team's been, as we've been doing this for just our founding team combined like 45, 50, 60 years. I don't even know what it is at this point, but we've worked with so many tools over that time, whether it's Microsoft technology, third-party solutions, and we just try and make it easy for business users. So.
Well, Anthony, you touched on a big point here. And, a lot of the clients that we work with are smaller clients that don't have the expertise to do Power BI. So doing a tool like you've got is a much bigger advantage for them. And that's the other thing. Not only don't they have the expertise for Power BI, but that's probably why they're going to you saying, or to their partner saying, build me a report because I don't have anybody who could build it.
Yeah. And I think so I'm one of those unique people where I was kind of blessed the way my journey's gone, because obviously I was at a reporting company for almost a decade. And then I left and went to a partner for 2 years. And I ran their reporting and analytics practice with one of my co-founders. And, what we found at the end of the day is that, again, like I talked about earlier, like the needs just aren't aligned. Like people just want a simple approach. And when we were on the partner side, they would come to us and say, build me a Power BI report or dashboard. Well, by the time you wrote the proposal and you wrote the scope of work and you left some time for change and remediation and the development, I mean, you're billing these people, $2, $3, $5 grand for a dashboard. And then you start thinking about it and you're like, or we could give them a tool where they could do this themselves for similar to those costs, right? Like, doesn't that sound more appealing? Because there's going to be another request in 2 months or a month or whatever it is. So yeah, I think you're spot on there, Rob. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, people are just looking for an easy, thing they can really embrace and take hold of. And even if it is build it for me, build it in an easier way that's going to be more streamlined and repeatable, right? Even if it's using a third party.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's like when I show people Excel layouts, right? Out of Business Central, it's really only about 6 steps. But when you first open that data, their eyes glaze over because it's a bunch of junk. That's what it looks like. It's junk. And they love the end solution that I show, a real quick and easy one. But it's kind of like that Three Bears thing again. They just want to have it done.
Yep.
Right. So, I mean, to me, the secret sauce is really having it there, making it easy for those users.
Yeah, enabling them. Because at the end of the day, if they want to build it, let them build it. But if they need help, they're going to reach out anyways. And what we've found is the partners we've gotten trained up, which is a big focus for us as well this year, and we'll talk about that more at Directions, partner enablement. But, the partners like working with it too. They're like, I don't have to write code. This is great. Like, this is phenomenal. I don't have to be in there doing that stuff. And again, like, I can't remember if it was Rob or Steve asked, but can a user really leverage this with Power BI? Like, I put my money where my mouth is. Like, I could show any of you in 30 seconds, and not that you're not all extremely technical and know this stuff like the back of your hand, but I mean, even a regular business user, 30 seconds, I can teach them how to build dashboards in Power BI. I mean, because the data's all there. Just on the right-hand side, just drag and drop what you want to see on the canvas.
So do you feel it's necessary, you meaning Anthony, Brian, Cosmos, the team there, do you feel it's a necessity when you say everything you've said so far, where you see people, like you said, the Goldilocks effect? You've got the people who want you to do all of it. You got the people in the middle who probably can do some of it, the hard and the easy and the hard stuff. Do you feel that it's necessary to kind of do what Microsoft's doing, whereby they're supplying these 80 pre-built reports based on the entire granular functionality of the BC world, where you are now going to supply here, get our product and here's these, I'm making it up here. Here's these 30 reports and, that are pre-built for you, go rock and roll kind of thing. And then go from there and kind of like, do you feel that's a necessity or no, not really? Because we give you this beautiful pre-built data warehouse that the learning curve is to get you up and running is so smooth that I don't need to supply pre-built stuff. I mean, you know where I'm coming from on this. I hope. Yeah,
we do both, right? Because kind of to Kim's point about different people and different strengths and things, like some just want to see that it's out of the box. And one of the most frustrating things as well around that is like people want out of the box to sell themselves on something being there. But just like those Power BI reports, they get in there, they hook them up and they go, well, I need this different, or this isn't exactly how we do it, right? And you're back to square one. Like out of the box is great. We templatize a ton of reports and dashboards and things like that because they work. But you have to realize like ours are modifiable. But at the end of the day, like in the Power BI example, they're not. And so, yeah, it's 90% of what you want, but that 10% is going to eat at you because you're going to go, well, but what if it could just have this? Can't it just have that? And you're right back to square one where now we need custom development. So yeah, it's pre-built's great and we offer a lot of it and it's real, but at the end of the day, like the reports we write for customers, you could never pre-build. And I'm sure you may ask about this, but like I get partners asking, so what about AI? Like, what are we going to do with AI building reports? And it's like, that's great. And it's going to get better, but the reports that our customers ask for all day long aren't going to be built with AI. There's too much nuance, too much complexity, too many, well, this needs to be over here, not there. It's just, it's not there yet. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, trust me. Don't bring up AI. Rob's going to drop you like a hot potato.
I was being gentle, Rob.
I mean, you'll be like the big symbol on in front of your face. Like, oh, sorry, Anthony just dropped right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We saw another tool that was talking about, we can do some AI reports. They did a webinar a couple of weeks ago and they're building them out. And it's like, this is a list of customers. Like, this is not useful to anyone. Like, you could pull that in 2 seconds out of BC if you needed to. Like, it's not there yet. So let's just keep it at that.
I can wait a million years. I want the users to know how to use the system. Screw that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see AI?
Yeah.
Where do you see AI playing anything in Cosmo or anywhere? Do you see it coming in a more of a, I'll use 3 years to say a 3, let's use 3, 6, and above 10. Like, where do you really see AI playing in, if anything at all, into your world versus, I know they're bringing AI into BC. Don't get me wrong, more as a role, a user within the system that needs more functionality that AI can help.
Yeah.
But where do you see it in your world?
So it's a good question. So funny thing, the tool I was referring to that had like the very basic AI reports, if you want to call them that, they also released their AI agent, right? We've had that for 2 years in the product. You can go in, there's a bot, you can ask it anything you want to do with the product. It's going to give you videos, links to articles, show you step-by-step walkthroughs configured. I mean, that's been there for a couple of years, and that's actually powered by some of Microsoft stuff. So that's great. To Rob's, I guess, point, people don't use it that much. It's not something people rely on a ton, but it's been there. As far as the reporting piece goes, will we do something with it? Probably. But like anything we do, we want to be delicate and do it the right way. So one thing I've talked to our CTO about is if we wanted to have AI create reports, what would that process look like? And he said, we'd need to use a ton of customer data. Is that ethical? Is that moral? Are we allowed to do that? Is that the right thing to do? And ironically, when this webinar was happening for this other solution, someone wrote a question in the chat and said, how did you train this AI? Did you use everyone's customer data and what they're doing with their reports? And there was no response given, right, to that question. So point being, I mean, to train AI, you need to use a lot of data. You need to have thousands of reports built. So unless you're going to have someone at Cosmos sit there and build thousands of reports all day long, you need to use what customers are doing. And there's a whole nother moral dilemma around that because this is their data and we promise to keep it safe and secure and not use it for things like that. So there's some of that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, again, it goes back to, Brian Peterson, Brian, he's one of the, longest tenured reporting type people in the channel. I mean, his whole thing is like the requests I'm getting from customers are nowhere near something that could be done with AI currently. They're too complex. There's too much nuance. It's just not there yet. So I think we have time, but when it makes sense, of course, we'll build it in.
We all have to learn how to ask AI the question. I haven't mastered that little skill yet. Apparently, I don't talk the way AI talks.
Yep, 100%. And we always joke about that as well, Kim, because we get support tickets. Report not on. What are we supposed to do with that? It means absolutely nothing, right? We're going to write back along like, okay, tell us what do you mean when it's not on? What's it do? People don't even know how to articulate what they're looking for with the AI. Or, for example, we'll have people say, I need a sales report. I need it yesterday. My boss is asking. Perfect. What do you need it to do? Well, I don't know. What are other customers doing? Well, no, that's not the right way to look at it. What do you guys need the report to do? Because there's a billion sales reports. So what is it your boss is asking for? So yeah, until people can get to that point as well, I don't think it's very useful.
And Anthony, that's kind of going back to the end user needs to know what they're supposed to be doing. I hate when AI is supposed to help the sales guy sell some shares to some customer. I mean, I want my salesperson to be in the customer's face, knowing exactly what the guy wants, just like I want my financial report writer to know our data and what we need from our data. I don't want AI coming up with some answer for us.
Yeah, I think there's like some,
it's really true.
100%. Like I think there's some interesting stuff like, okay, I have my report and I have a presentation coming up, AI, Copilot, whatever. Tell me what's going on here. I mean, again, stuff you could figure out, but give me some snippets that I can put in. I think that's cool technology.
Yeah.
You can do that with our stuff now with Copilot.
Agreed.
Like, I think that's cool. Summarize this. Tell me what's going on. Drop it into some slides, whatever. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, you're spot on. Like the nuance of report design is insane. And like a good example is commission reports. Like we'll have people say, this is a real story. And, again, not using names, we had someone say, why don't you guys have an out-of-the-box commission report? I'm surprised that's not there. Everyone needs a commission report. And we're like, well, tell us about yours. And it was the most complicated. Well, if this happens, then they get this. But if not, then they don't get paid on that one. That goes to the account rep. But if they do get paid, depends which product it is. Then they get a 3%, 6%, or 9%. But only if it's a product we don't have excess stock on. And it's just like, okay, that's why we don't have it pre-built, because yours is very specific to your business.
That's a great example.
That's a super example. Yeah. And true. It's a true example. That's the sad part.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, that's the epitome of a commission report. Everybody says, the standard BC one is, it stinks because it does nothing. And it's like, okay, so what's yours? And then you hear like you just said, you go make a left turn here and make a right turn over here. And if it's not this, then guess what? Go over here. And it's like, so how do you make a standard?
Somewhere in the middle of that, you got to do a somersault.
Yeah, 100%. It's like a decision tree. It's like, is the product red or blue? It's red. Okay, go over here. Is the person, this or that? Okay, go here. It's just crazy.
Was it pulled on a Tuesday and paid on a Wednesday?
Yeah, exactly. And I always just want to tell those.
But you know what? That's reporting too. It's not just commissions. If you really think about it, that's reporting.
100%. And that's why going back to those pre-built Power BI reports, like they're going to give a lot of value, I think, on demos. And I think that, it'll be nice to have some insights into things people don't necessarily have currently. But I think at the end of the day, every business is different. And that's why those things are always really hard to say, well, you got 100 reports. Well, we only care about 2 of them. The other 98 don't work for us. So yeah, you can market it as 100 reports, but for our business, the other 98 aren't useful.
So what do you, okay, so here's something that has crossed all 3 of our desks constantly over the last few years is, the speed of reporting is changing somewhat way faster than anybody can keep up with, to a degree. Don't get me wrong here. People are keeping up with it. And you're all right. I mean, they're nice to have, but I have 2 customers that are like literally chomping at the bit, and they're just basically, they come from old Nav into BC. So they came from an old other reporting tool, but it's basically come to the point where it's like, well, what's the point? You don't know the tool. You're just sitting here. It's like somebody's pressing a button each and every time like this. You have no clue. You can't make it better or worse because nobody knows it. Do you offer a solution where you basically just say to somebody, listen, I appreciate all the beautiful reports you've made, but, if you're looking for something better, like, at least take the top 20, and do you convert old reports from other systems to yours? Or how do you really approach a customer who says, here's my, like you said, GP had its reporting tool. Everybody had a reporting tool from any ERP you're coming from. What do you tell people? Here's my, let's just call it packet of 20. And here's my 20, and I need them in Cosmo. Like, what should I tell my customer who's going to Cosmo? Like, tell me how I should approach that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the way I make the analogy to people is like, you moved from GP to BC. Are you taking much with you? Probably not. It doesn't just flip a switch and now your GP is BC, right? Like, they're different tools. And believe it or not, we explored from a very popular report writer in the past that we're all intimately familiar with. We explored building a conversion tool. What we figured out was it'd probably be about 6 months of work full time for the engineering team, and it would only apply to financials. That was kind of the scope we felt comfortable with.
Wow.
Now, that being said, after talking to customers, it didn't really seem worth it. And we talked to partners as well, obviously. But the amount of effort that was going to go in to be able to convert some level of financials over from one to the other, like, you might as well just rebuild them. And so if a customer has 20 reports, like, hey, look, there's a million answers to this, and it goes back to the Goldilocks and the 3 bears. But like, take the training and build the reports. Oh, you don't want to build them? We'll build them. Your partner will build them. Whoever wants to do the services. You want to build the easy ones? We'll create the other 10. Split them half and half. It's not that much of a lift. And especially when you consider that, like, with a Cosmos, you could be like, cool, you've got this financial report. For us to do it, it's going to take 2 hours, something like that. Or we could build a Power BI report, and it's going to take, 20 hours or 30 hours or whatever. Like, it's just not, I think that's their mindset, is like, reports are expensive. Like they're not when you have the tooling to make them easy to build. So, a lot of times when we work with customers, they come from a, legacy third-party ISV that, again, we all know. It's like, well, our whole team knows that product like the back of their hand because we all worked there at one point or another. So show us the reports. Okay, we know what this one's doing. Perfect. We know what this one's doing. Here's an estimate. And then we personally, partners can do it however they want. We just fix fee everything. So we can come back and say, for these 20 reports, it's going to be this. If it takes us longer, that's our problem, not yours. But that's your cost. Convert them over. But it's kind of one of those things like people love to drive grandma's car till the wheels fall off, right? As we all know, but they're going to fall off. And I have an email in my inbox from our marketing team with a new white paper on technical debt, right? And that's ultimately what a lot of these people have. Like they know it's going to go away. They know that it works now, but it's going to stop at some point. You just have to jump to the next thing, or else everything you do from this point on is sort of technical debt. So yeah, it's just like going from GP to BC. You don't push a button and hey, everything's converted. It's different products. So.
I'm sitting here, and the three of us have been like literally knee deep in this stuff for the past probably 4 to 5 months. We've been constantly getting involved with reporting and thinking of different things and some of the, looking at these tool sets. But at the same time, we keep, some of our customers have been, like stymied because of their, I'm sorry, it's like you said, they're going to outgrow, or it's going to, I hate using the engine, the wheels are going to fall off. And then what are you going to do? Then you're stuck, in a mud pit. And I'm sorry, I can't help you, but now we're going to start. Not that you would start all over again, but you'd move to a much easier and more sophisticated tool that's more ready for the future for you. And, the learning curve is easier. Like you said, it won't be hard to learn it because, you go through a training session and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a crazy last several months of the where reporting is going from Microsoft to, and then of course inclusive of you guys. So it's been amazing.
Yeah. And one last analogy. Again, I made this a couple years ago at Directions, but reporting to me is like watching TV these days. Like you want to watch a show. Well, season 1 was on Netflix. Season 2, you got to have MGM Plus. You got to have this. It's like you think it's great when streaming came out. Everyone was so excited because I can get it here and it's cheaper. My wife and I, we've got 16 streaming platforms now to just watch TV and the shows we want to watch. And I keep thinking that like the native tooling is a lot like that, right? It's like, well, what do you mean you don't have reporting? You've got Power BI and you've got analysis views and you've got financial reports and you've got, and the list goes on. It's kind of like, yeah, but I just want to watch TV. I don't want to have to switch between 14 services every time I need it. And at the end of the day, they just want their data. And that's why people like our stuff, because it's one-stop shop. Everything's there. You can build whatever report you want, however you want it.
It's just amazing. Let us ask you this next question, because we always do this to everybody. So we're going to put you on the spot because we like to.
Oh, great.
So we haven't put you on the spot, but don't talk about work. But what does Anthony like to do outside of work? What's any great plans coming up for spring or anything? Any good vacations or anything like that? And hobbies and stuff. So what do you do in your spare time? And please don't say work.
Okay, I won't say it. So we'll talk about what I have coming up. So I won't say the W word, but no, you hit the nail on the head. So contrary to Rob's belief, I am Italian, not Irish. And we actually all get along. Okay, that's a misconception. We're fine. It's been, we buried that. But I am heading back to Italy with family late May, early June. So I'll be out for a little bit, not working. I can say it in that context. So, love traveling, hanging out with the family. I'm a fantastic golfer. I'm really bad, but I love golfing and that's great. So, get out and do some of that when Oregon weather lets me pull it off. But yeah, looking forward to Italy. That's the next
you brought up that great state that we keep all hearing about, that they want to draw that line down the middle, but we'll stay out of that. That's called politics. Yeah. We don't do that on this.
It's the Wild West out here, quite literally. So yeah.
So Anthony, North Italy or South Italy?
So my family is from a little town called Colonia Spiaggia. So about halfway down the boot on the right-hand side, so the east side. So we pop in there sometimes. This trip we're doing down in Sicily and some of that stuff because it's one of the few areas I haven't gone to. So we're going to check that out.
So where can folks find you in the next couple of months? What conferences are you going to? give us some updates of
Nice.
where you're going to be, and then we'll go around the horn. We always go around the horn, and we'll tell everybody where we're going to be, the BC3 Amigos, and what conferences are coming up. But we'll let you start. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, so we got Directions in April. So I'll be down there for the partners and have presentations and all that stuff. We're a sponsor once again, so we'll be there. Let's see. Then I come back. Then I got some partner customer conferences. So I'll be at those kind of throughout April into early May. I'll be at DynamicsCon Live. We have a session there on Cosmos, all that good stuff. And I think I get to go on vacation. So yeah, I think that's it in the next couple months,
That's
something
fantastic.
like that.
I'm going to pass it to my colleagues because we always go around the horn telling everybody where we're going to be the next couple of months. I'll pass it to Kim first. Kim, where are we going to be over the next couple of months of the BC3 meetings?
April, DynamicsCon May, Microsoft Denmark June.
And then I think Rob, we got road shows coming up. Where are some road shows or Doug meetups happening? And you got anything? I know we've got a couple this week. We have Denver. I know that I'll be in Denver at the end of the week. But where? What else we've got?
Well, the next one I think coming up is the Washington D.C. That's April. Yep. And then we go to Chicago, and they're still looking for a site for that. So. And then we've got Toronto coming up too. So.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Toronto, yeah. A lot of people in Toronto. We don't get many Canada ones. I know there's a Northeast Regional Doug event happening coming up, obviously. And they also have regular meetups, Ohio and some other local places. But the big one is the Northeast Regional, which covers pretty much I call it from Virginia to New England, I call it. And so hopefully we'll see people there. And that's in the Philadelphia area at the Microsoft office. For Doug, and there's plenty of other ones happening. So, yeah, it'd be very exciting. Everybody who's listening, also one other thing, whether you're going to DynamicsCon in May or whether you're going to Summit in October, please use the BC3 Amigos discount, which you'll get at the end of this recording, plus a listing of where you can find all of us at each conference coming up over the rest of the year. We always will keep updating it and throwing where we're going to be, where you can see all of us, whether it be Kim, Rob, or I speaking. So we'll keep that up to date for you. And please use the discount codes to.
I have one more thing.
Hey, I have one more thing. I want to go first. Tomorrow is Miss Kim's birthday.
Woo!
Oh,
awesome.
42.
I'm 21.
21.
All right.
Hold on. Wait, do you have your phony ID again? Did you go get one?
Yeah, I've got it over here somewhere.
Obviously.
No, now you made me forget what I was going to say, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I was going to say we have our new BC3 Amigos LinkedIn site.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So
find us on LinkedIn.
Please follow us on LinkedIn, and you'll certainly see this recording out there, as well as a lot of our blogs and a lot of our new things we're putting out there on a continuous basis. Follow us there, all the educational material, plus links to certainly Cosmos and things like that from this recording will be out there soon. So without further ado, it is the end of our February Valentine's event here. And all the love went to Anthony this time around. So, and now we're going to pass our love to Kim's birthday. So for all of you watching, we got to say happy birthday to Kim. Not right now. She'll probably smack us later if we do that. Or we'll keep the happy birthday quietly. Sing, Okay, that's, but
yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Birthday,
thanks everybody for attending.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Talk to you all soon.
Adios, amigos.